in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What was behind the curtain? The face of evil's lurking, with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble that either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons could breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. Hey, I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of Case Closed, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every Sunday, the place to be for the highest level conversation on the most relevant topics, ladies and gentlemen. And today, we're going to be talking about content moderation within the space of social media. Whom do you allow to say what and under what circumstances? What are the ways in which you regulate and decide? How far do you probe into the lives of these people whom you are going to censor? How about things that they do outside of your platform? A platform like Facebook or YouTube or Twitter has to take these things into account, because absolute free speech does not really exist because of the consequences, and there needs to be some limits. To that end, we're going to be talking about X, or Twitter. As we know, Elon Musk recently acquired that company, and in addition to slashing 85% of the staff, he also changed the content moderation team and the ways that they do the content moderation, bringing back people who had been banned by the previous management of Twitter, people like Alex Jones and the like. And advertisers have expressed their discomfort with the situation by pulling their ads, by saying that this particular iteration of Twitter and their content moderation is fomenting hatred and whatnot. And then recently, Elon Musk responded to an anti-Semitic tweet. We're going to be looking into that, along with his reaction in a recent interview when he told advertisers, specifically Disney and the like, to go F themselves. So, what do you think about this new Twitter and its content moderation? Do you agree that Elon's way is more amenable to free speech? Or shall we say, some of the things that were done in Twitter before, do those things need to be taken back a little bit? Will the public actually support Elon and boycott some of these advertisers and, maybe buy some more of the $8 blue checks and engage in more of the other ways in which Twitter plans to monetize itself? Or will Twitter collapse and die and become bankrupt? These are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, ladies and gentlemen. And as usual, we got an all-star panel joining us. We got LAR, we got Game Changer, we got Kaizo. Okay, shout out to you. Okay, and I'm going to be making a couple of shorts out of this video, so I'm going to keep the screen this way for the most part. Okay, no shade to you, LAR. Not trying to minimize you guys over there on the back of the bus, but shout out to you guys. How are you doing, LAR?
Great and tired.
Great and tired. LAR, fresh from the motherland. I saw you at the Repat podcast with O'Shea Duke Jackson and the rest of that crew over there. Hope you had a good time over there in Uganda. Shout out to Kaizo in the building, and we got Game Changer also in the building. As you come in, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and click that like button and share. Shout out to T Riddler in the building. Okay, so let me just go ahead and play a little bit of this thing right here.
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go f yourself. But go yourself. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. You said it twice. Now, that was, of course, ex-CEO Elon Musk giving us a very strong message in how he feels about advertisers who have been pulling out of his platform because of allegations that he is anti-Semitic. Now, if you're wondering,
allegations that he is anti-Semitic. Okay, so where those allegations come from? Okay, we're going to show this tweet here, which Mr. Musk reacted to. Right, let me get a larger version of it. Let me see. I think that's better. Basically, the tweet says, okay, and this person on Twitter is called The Artist, formerly known as whatever. Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectical hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. And now this is talking about the intellectual landscape, the landscape of the types of people who push certain types of philosophies in institutes of higher learning, for example, out of which you get the critical theories, critical race theories, and all forms of postmodernism, saying basically that the Jewish people are heavy in that game. And here they are now trying to say that, you should not hate them. Okay. So, but let's just get started with Kaizo first and then LAR and then Game Changer. What is your reaction to that video by Elon Musk? Something you like, yeah, tell Bob Iger to go F himself. Or you're like, that's a little cringe. It didn't work out. What is your reaction, starting with Kaizo?
Yeah, so I don't really think the response could have been any worse or better. I think it is what it is. I think Elon Musk has made it clear of the direction that he's taking that company. So there's nothing words would have salvaged there. Now, given that, right, Twitter's already integrated a 10-minute or longer video as well as live streaming as well on their platform, aka Company X. If that's the case, Elon Musk can actually really, really easily, and I believe it's easy, right, by actually bringing people in like all these losers, such as Fresh and Fit podcast, Alex Jones, all the weirdos from the internet, to come in and then basically bring their people onto the platform for live streaming. And if that's the case, they can also change the way that the advertising works. Because here's the thing, it's advertising. It's not that, for example, if I have a company, I don't really care if you're showing my company to a bunch of white supremacists if they are going to buy the product, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to actual economics, this whole idea of advertiser-friendly logic is nothing to do with reality. This is more for optics of the company and the fallbacks that they get, aka big, large corporations like Disney, for example, right? They're the only ones who would actually suffer any kind of loss from certain ads running within certain sectors of the internet. I guess what I'm saying is rebrand Twitter as a new YouTube, start bringing in on purpose all these weirdos, give them access, and they will give you the views and usability. Just create a new true darknet version of YouTube, and that's really all he's got to do.
Indeed. So speaking of the video content and the bringing in of different types of people, Tucker Carlson, formerly of formerly at Fox News, for a decade was the top anchor person, opinion person, whatever it is, top type of news anchor in cable news for 10 years. And he was at the top when they let him go. And he's over now with Elon over at Twitter Spaces or whatever iteration, whatever they're calling the video and podcasting arm of Twitter. And he seems to be liking it, and he is doing rather well over there. And yeah, you made the point about perhaps maybe big companies, because it's about their branding. Okay, they're not saying, oh, we don't. It's, hey, we have this particular image. Our image is important to us because we're really big, and people view us as targets, and we don't necessarily want to see our ad next to that tweet, right? that Elon Musk did not only remove, but actually responded to and such. And doesn't even really matter whether the tweet is anti-Semitic or not. It might be something that we get into on the side here, because Elon said it's true. And maybe it is true, strictly speaking. But LAR, what are your thoughts about Go F Yourself? You think he's unhinged, or what's going on there?
No, I think it's just a part of being in America, in the sense of you can't let people run your company. And advertisers are basically running companies by telling them we're going to pull out. And the issue becomes what? They're picking weird reasons to pull out. And what I mean is, because for years, people have been on social media getting quote unquote canceled. And there's a good chunk of those people who really didn't say or do anything that was really wrong. It's just they offended a particular type of person, and they went and ran with it and got them ruined. So Twitter has always been a place where you say stuff. The comment, veering off into that, I think the other thing is just kind of pushing back at the anti-Semitism thing, because a critique is not anti anything. It's a critique. So, like, what winds up happening is nowadays you have YouTube had this issue. Remember, the dude who actually, what was it, PewDiePie? He went full, putting a swastika in the background, and it caused a whole advertiser issue, which, hit basically YouTube. The reason I'm saying all this is this. Sometimes what it looks like is these advertisement companies and these actual companies use cancel culture and anti-Semitism to actually short people money. It's an easy way to get out of a deal. And that becomes a problem, because now you're canceling your way out of deals. Basically, you're seeing like the social media business is kind of like an NFL contract for a running back. I didn't like the way you juked that person. We got to cut you. We can't pay you. So now it's becoming an issue. And because he owns that site, people might gravitate to the fact that, I can't go here and get canceled, which will cause a whole lot of wild stuff to be said. But at the same time, you're going to have a situation where this is the only place where we can actually speak our minds. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see.
So, Game Changer, what are your initial reactions to Elon's recent outburst, sir?
Well, my initial reaction was slight jubilation, simply because I mentioned on this very show how I feel about the changes that Disney's has taken, and Bob Iger and stuff. And it was directed to him. He did mention Bob by name afterwards, so this was definitely directed to him. And anybody that really stands up to cancel culture, to this type of censorship, gets my utmost respect. Dave Chappelle did it, and at one point he had to say no to $50 million, in order to do so. I mean, I do appreciate somebody who is capable of doing that. Now, the comment that Elon Musk responded to I probably have to see it say, because it says show more. I probably have to see where the author is going with it. But it doesn't really seem as if this person is inciting violence or hatred, but more indifference. And he's making an accusation that really is something that I don't agree to, but I would be willing to listen to a debate on it. As we know that this particular group of people have a substantial amount of control over the media, what we watch or what's presented in the media. And if white men feel marginalized, I'd like to hear their side. I would, because I'm curious about that. But to just say, to make that accusation or to make that assertion that it's anti-Semitic and to agree with said assertion, I don't agree with that. I mean, people accuse people of pushing an agenda all the time. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're anti anything. They're just pointing out that they're pushing an agenda. But secondly, I was happy that he said that. I don't like that people are using this cancel culture as a weapon in order to get everybody into this groupthink.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of groupthink, there's been a recent upsurge in Elon hatred. Back in the day, Elon was just the guy that, did PayPal and then, did Tesla and SpaceX, and maybe he ruffled a few feathers in certain places, like let's say the motor industry or something like that. But ever since the Twitter thing, right when he took over Twitter and he started doing the slashing, which by the way, it's not necessarily something that people don't like because many other CEOs have followed, like, hey, I guess I could slash people too and get away with it. After all, the economy and the interest rates kind of make sense. I mean, I have to balance my books. But also you have this from the usual sources, more from the liberal side of things, people now just seeing him as a Nazi. Let me start with Game Changer there. What do you attribute to this sudden hatred? Is it really, do you think there's a groundswell of people, or is it just kind of manufactured where the Young Turks puts out a video and then the regular people repeat the stuff that the Young Turks said? I've witnessed this, there was in person, talking to somebody, a musician in this case, and, spewing all kinds of vitriol against Elon Musk. And without specifying exactly, it's not like, oh, Elon is against this policy. Elon said no to abortion, something like that. It's just, no, he's a Nazi. He's a horrible person. All of a sudden, what are your thoughts regarding this recent uptick in Elon hatred, Game Changer?
Okay, so living out here, I've met people who've met him, though I've never met him myself. From what I hear about him, he is an eccentric person, which I'm pretty sure anybody that accomplished would be. But I do feel that modern people, the people in their 20s, young people, and really people my age and younger, we've expanded the definition of Nazi, to include most any heterosexual white guy that has some connections to traditional values. And that's probably what the tweet was about. That's probably what the tweet was saying. Like, the media is portraying heterosexual white men as not. I mean, that's why I said the conversation should be flushed out. So there is that thinking, but there's actual hate out there in the world, and the people of that time and place in Germany, were that. They too were indoctrinated, but nevertheless, they were that. And it's a false comparison to take somebody who has views that may be considered dated to just call them a Nazi, especially if they never displayed, a particular anti-Semitic or racist, ideology.
Interesting. Yeah. And it, correct. So the identity thing is you're saying is key there, because if you look at his lifestyle and his marrying of Grimes and his whatever, and his smoking of weed at the Joe Rogan podcast, this is not somebody that you would think, okay, this is some kind of, this is the grandfather with the white beard trying to keep me from having fun, right? So
Right.
It quite interesting. But let's go to Kaizo next regarding what do you attribute this recent uptick of Elon hate? There is one kind of aspect which has to do with what people call, and these things all align, right? Just different ways of describing the same thing. Basically, you have the entrepreneurs, the entrepreneur types. They like to break things. They like to shake things up and move fast and such and such. And then you have the people who are more stable manager types. Okay. All the people who were fired at Twitter, for example, right? And they're not entrepreneurial. They're more safe. They tend to trust more in systems, and their hence become a happy-go-lucky, go along to get along type of crowd, because they're there to make sure things are stable, things move properly, right? And these people are they tend to battle with the entrepreneurial class a little bit. The entrepreneurial class is, they come in, they own everything, they slash people, they treat people like numbers and all this kind of stuff. So goes the kind of a narrative. Economically, the managerial class can no longer be sustained in the way they have been in the zero interest rate environment, where you have bloated administration, not just in corporate America, but we see the same thing also in academia. Academia is being seriously bloated with administrators, including diversity and inclusion administrators and whatnot. And these people don't like people who have ownership and can shake things up. Having said that, Kaiser, what do you attribute this recent uptick in Elon hatred to?
Well, Elon Musk is a racist. He's endorsed people like Matt. What's the name of that comedian Ike who used to write on little sketches and stuff, right? He's endorsed, Dilberg or something.
Yeah. The name will come to me in a second. Scott Adams.
Right. Yeah, Scott Adams, right? So he's been endorsing racists for a while. He is against things like Black Lives Matter. All the things in areas where you kind of say that Elon Musk is racist, he's one of them. So that means he's no longer being loved by the liberal media, because right now, instead of punching up, he's punching down to the weak members of society. And right now, right, blacks are protected groups. So are Judean descendant people, aka Jews. They're also a protected group. Blacks can be racist to whites. Nothing's going to be said against them. And also Jews can say what they want to, because they've had a Holocaust, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is everybody's coming for him, apart from the white community, the general conservative white males who are being seen as being radicals and racist. So I guess he's lost his positioning in certain liberal sectors. And right now, that's the reason why. And also just respond to Game Changers comment about anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is not about actually endorsing anything that is actually against Semitism, right, or against Jews. It's actually a spirit. It's saying anything that might even potentially incite other people to start hating on Jews, true or false. So it's more about protecting Jews rather than saying the truth. Exactly. Same thing with blacks.
To be fair, does this tweet even fit that description?
No, but there's always fear around everything.
So we can't agree that this tweet wasn't anti-Semitic.
Yeah, I can't. I personally can't see it, but I can see why they reacted so crazy.
I can't see it. I'm sorry. I mean, to be honest, to make a assertion about a culture, I don't even consider that's racist. Even if it's bad, I don't really consider that that's racist.
Well, Kaizo, as a fellow traveler with Elon Musk, as a fellow racist yourself, right? Because I think that part is what's hidden behind the things that you're saying. Because you're calling him a racist, knowing fully well that you're probably way worse, right? Now, would you move in this same kind of way? Do you endorse this kind of open statement of, you're a facts and logic type of guy? So you know the facts, you know the logic, you're just saying, hey, there's consequences. Speaking from that perspective, right? Outside of the descriptive perspective which you gave, which you're saying, hey, there's a group of people, they're quite sensitive to anything which can even potentially be seen as causing harm or whatever, even if it's true, right? But speaking from your perspective, would you have moved differently? Because we all know you're way worse than him.
Yeah, good question. Okay, I mean, if I was a billionaire, perhaps the first or second or third richest man, then I think any manner of ways of moving won't really matter at that point. So in a way, I think there is a component that Elon can move like this because he's Elon Musk. And this is just one of his pet projects. Yes, it's expensive pet project, but at the end of the day, first of all, Twitter is an infrastructure. It is a code. He can repurpose the code whenever he wants because he owns it. So there's an infrastructure there. So there's so much in case of real estate, aka digital real estate, that exists within Twitter that honestly, even if the company failed, he could just rebrand it as something else, using the infrastructure and just build something on top of it. So yeah, if I was a billionaire and I reach a point of my life where money isn't necessarily what drives me, but perhaps now my FI, my internal preferences, and my ability to express myself. And if you even look at it logically, wasn't it the reason why he said, at least one of them, of purchasing Twitter was to actually allow free speech? So in a way, this is the ultimate way to actually go about something like that, by standing up to what he thinks is lack of free speech.
Yeah, so he stands up, he doesn't back down, and you're not yet a billionaire, and you say all kinds of outrageous things on your channel by standards of other people that would say they will cancel you real quick, or could consider you to have said all kinds of things racist against all kinds of people, blacks, whites, and everybody else. So I think that you're claiming that you're waiting to be a billionaire, but you actually are not waiting. But anyways, LAR, why the recent hate? Twitter happened. Twitter seemed to be this precious little artifact that both the government and certain brands of the public had for controlling the narrative. Okay. And they had their precious little blue checks and people whom are within the gated institutions who say things, and when they say things, it matters more. They tell you about things like the beer virus and about masks. And hey, 2020 just happened, right? We saw all the craziness that happens, that comes out of the mouths of these types of protected people. Okay. Elon took it over and he became a Nazi all of a sudden in the eyes of these same people. Is that what's going on here, LAR? What does your spirit tell you about? Because for me, it seems a little crazy and irrational. If you're that person with a blue check and Elon comes and takes it away, I understand that. I get why the New York Times, for example, would hate Elon Musk. But the regular person, at a reggae festival, all of a sudden just saying, just repeating what they heard on the latest liberal blog is kind of insane to me. But that's human nature, I guess. But LAR, what are your thoughts about this?
I think it's twofold. I think on one end, it's the whole Israel-Palestine conflict, and people have been looking for. In some ways, you've seen people say everybody's anti-Semitic in this little framework. So he's just one of many that have got the anti-Semitism trope. So for, I guess, image reasons, to say that Jewish people are persecuted. And then on the other side, you got the whole advertiser thing, which that's a business hit that a lot of businesses might not like, in the sense of, oh, you think you could just come to my platform and tell me what to do? So how about this? If you want to do that, then you don't have to be on my platform advertising. And they'll find other people, which in some ways it gets smaller businesses more advertisement on those platforms. If he decides to, forget these big people who want to tell us to shut up. And you don't necessarily want that. Well, I would think that bigger businesses don't necessarily want that, because basically social media platforms will start catering to the smaller businesses, and they'll lose some of their business, because advertisement is dollars. Like, an advertisement brings dollars, and people go, okay, I like this, I like that, I like that, I'm going this way. So, and I say that in the same framework as when he got Twitter and turned it to X and fired all those people. All these other businesses was like, we don't need all these people. Oh my God. So to me, it's in the same vein of that. Like, we don't need all of these big advertisers who just want us to say whatever they want. Oh my God, we could still make the same amount of money with a bunch of other people. That is going to create a problem for, what do you call that? Just the higher up business class. So it's like two different wars at the same time.
Makes sense. One of the good things that came out of Elon taking over Twitter, turning it to X, is the release of the Twitter files. You guys may have heard of it. But the Twitter files basically showed the collusion between government agencies, typically in the intelligence sector, FBI, CIA, and Twitter itself, with regards to this idea of content moderation, deciding whom in a rather secret way, in a way that does not necessarily conform with publicly stated, shall we say, infractions that could get you pulled away. But if the government comes to Twitter and says, hey, pull this person, pull this person, pull this person, that was going on. And if anything, one good thing that came out of this, even if Twitter completely collapses as a result of the advertisers pulling their money, one good thing that came out of this is actually showing in real time, documented that yes, okay, the deep state, if you will, was in cahoots with Twitter. Whom else might they be in cahoots with in the media to control the narrative? Now, game changer. When it comes to content moderation, Elon has stated that his goal of purchasing Twitter to begin with was to increase freedom of speech. He thought that that was very, very important and necessary. And one of the things that he wants to do, which he has actually already started doing with his new product called Grok, which is an AI project, and he has a new X AI or X company that is an AI company that's going to compete with OpenAI. As we also know, he was the main funder of OpenAI when it got off the ground and was a nonprofit, was a strictly nonprofit endeavor at that point. So his main goal is to bring back freedom from speech. He's rolling back certain things which the previous Twitter management did, and it is therefore seen as a right-wing push because the previous Twitter management had a more of a left-wing tilt to them. But do you agree, generally speaking, I think my camera just passed away, but do you agree, generally speaking, with Elon's approach to content moderation, and do you think that it will actually lead to more freedom of speech? Game changer.
Excuse me, I didn't know I was muted, but yes, I do. I do think that it does take somebody extraordinarily powerful in order to make the necessary changes that Elon Musk is in the process of making. And he does have that, but we really do need that because people are calling. Wait, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, I've seen so many changes on the screen, but people are calling Elon Musk a Nazi. But when you really stop and think about what a Nazi was in that time period in Germany, it was a group of people who had all of their thoughts censored. They had, the books, they had the book burnings and stuff like that, and all that was left was the propaganda that the state at the time gave them. And then as a result, this group think that just so happens to be, what it was, took over and caused havoc throughout the world. It's not dissimilar. It's just to what we're going through now, where, as you mentioned, the government and, major industries is funding a sort of group think for the general population. And the general population is falling in that direction, which is really more akin to what the Nazis did than what Elon Musk is doing. Freedom of thought is not a Nazi thing. They definitely had a group think going on with them. So, and do I think that his actions is moving in that direction? Yes. Now, does it have the potential to create a platform where he pushes his own agenda? Absolutely, and that is dangerous, especially considering the span of his wealth. But I don't. Right now, I could say I don't think that that's where he's going with this. I do think that he thinks he sees a lot of problems in the way that modern society is going, in the direction that they're pushing the children in, is not really an advantage to itself.
Got it. Makes sense. Now, to the point that Game Changer just made, you just said, okay, and you agree, Kaiser, this is the way to get the agenda that he came to push, okay? He's here for more freedom of speech. He thinks that a more open platform will create a better AI with more truth, as opposed to the woke chat GPT that will tell you certain things about Biden, wouldn't repeat the same things about, that kind of a thing, politically correct, non-politically correct AI, if you will. But do you think that the public is going to go for Elon versus the advertisers, because basically Elon said later on in that video, which you played a clip of, that the public will be the judge, that, hey, these people pull off and, try to kill the company, or if they indeed kill the company, that the public will be the judge. Will Disney stock and subscriptions to Disney streams and all these other people, will this be affected? Do you think that the public will actually go with Elon, or are they just too inert in their NPC ways and things will just happen and nothing will come of this? What are your thoughts on that, Kaizo? You muted, or
Can you?
nope? It's that dusty internet. So let me see. Someone called. Yeah, I'm trying to find this video that somebody asked me to look up here in the chat. Saying that somebody said that Elon Musk is part of his white supremacist group. Interesting. Look, the first reaction
No,
I did
if he is, I'll be
even
proven wrong. But
I mean, he's been called a racist for a while, but
and go ahead.
I mean, if there's evidence, then there's evidence. But I mean, because modern society overuses that word, racist, Nazi, all that stuff, because modern society overuses that word, I really require investigation when somebody's accused of that. It's way too overused nowadays. I mean, I remember Kanye West, who, when you look at him now, it's kind of hard to believe, but he just stood up and said George Bush don't care about black people, which was, it's like, okay, well, we gotta actually investigate before we make accusations like that. These are very damning accusations. Yeah,
and even if he was the part of some club or something, look, it reeks of witch hunt, right? In other words, you are here, LAR, you're doing things, you're running your business, and you're saying things that, what your goal is, and then you go about pursuing these goals in ways which are reasonable. I want more free speech, so I'm going to bring back these people you guys kicked out. You guys kicked these people out because you had a particular agenda, and you bring them in. Some people, ruffles some feathers, big deal. I think these organizations are operating too inefficiently, so I slash people. I ruffle feathers here, there, and everywhere. And then, in other words, on paper, what you're doing is offending certain people, but nothing that you are saying or doing can actually be said that you're racist, LAR. So what I go and do is I go start digging into your grandmother's thing and your ex's, whatever, and then I find something. And I find that whole kind of approach to be insane, right? It is, if it was just an argument, then it would be completely a fallacy, pure ad hominem. And then, generally speaking, in the social sphere, it is witch hunt, because everybody has got something that you can pull up and say, see, this is why this person is a bad person. And there are certain people who get moved by quote unquote bad guy approach to, defaming somebody. Like, hey, look, bad guy. For me, it doesn't work for me at all. Like, I'm just like, what do you mean bad guy? Who the hell are you? A good guy? Like, where do we get off? Like, how many iterations and how many religions are gonna keep on repeating the same crap to us about not judging others in this kind of a stupid way? So, LAR, what do you think about the racist thing, right? Like, what are your, even if he was part of this particular group, because there's a group in Silicon Valley of there's this guy called Peter Thiel, and he likes to, and Elon Musk and Peter Thiel founded PayPal together. He likes to kind of dabble with certain types of people like Mario Yiannopoulos and people who say wild and crazy things, and I completely understand that type of personality. I consider myself to be one of those type of people. Yeah, why not have Mario Yiannopoulos over and other people, some of whom are actually interesting and have interesting things to say, right? Why not have them over? And we need not forget that people like Brett Weinstein and Jordan Peterson are also called Nazis by this same type of people, right? So I don't know if you wanted to react to any of that, LAR, and I'll try to find a video of this person claiming that Elon's part of his Nazi group, and then we'll go to Kaizo if he's actually back.
the thing about it is, this is America. So somebody being a racist in America and being successful is like not out of the norm, for one. So if they are, whatever. If they're not, whatever. For me, it's kind of interesting because of he's a racist now because he's a white guy he's anti-Semitic, and so he's a white guy who has a critique of other white people, and that makes it racist. Like, whatever. So, but the other thing about this whole thing is, I really think that the Jewish community, I think what's going to wind up happening is people are desensitized to the anti-Semitic thing and the Nazi thing, because there's really not much evidence of somebody that they've claimed to be anti-Semitic doing anything to Jewish people. There's not really evidence out there that the people that they claim or remind them of Nazis doing anything destructive to Jewish people. It's just somebody says something that you don't like, and all of a sudden they're the second coming of Hitler, but nothing ever happened to anybody Jewish before, during, or after that whole claim. So I think people are just going to get burnt out on that whole phrase as a means to cancel somebody. Elon Musk is getting sued by black people right now about being racist in his hiring practices. But guess what? This is America, so that happens. We like to play this game with canceling people when it's convenient, because guess what? We can make this claim about everything, whether it's true or false. Because we can say the same thing about employment when people go, well, this person gets promoted and I don't. What do you have in common with this? You know, and then you have the issue where you have people who use race or racism or whatever as a means to benefit themselves to get higher up the ladder, the socioeconomic ladder or the political ladder. So,
and gender preference.
Yeah, it's just a thing. So now it becomes an issue where it's happening too much, where basically cancel culture is ahead of actual culture. And it's like no consequences if the cancel culture is wrong, or no consequences if the cancel culture has no evidence. You get what I'm saying? Or a small amount of evidence. Because like you said, going back as far as you can to find something on somebody, it says that they were a certain way at a certain time. It does. But it also gives you the time length of that not being the case also. So you can take that either way. You know, that's my point.
Mm-hmm. So let me see if we can do a little collecting of ourselves here. Shout out to Dr. Thunder. How's the audio going? Can you be heard?
Yeah, it should be good.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about content moderation, which is something that you have to deal with. It's not something that you can just put your hands up and say, no, you're not going to moderate content. And freedom of speech is not absolute. Hence, you must draw some kind of line. There are some places whom have tried to say, well, everything goes. And then they immediately start finding that it's the most dark, unventilated, horrid corners of the human psyche that become the most of the things that are on your site. And this is not amenable to either good taste or, shall we say, advertising, which is the model, which, by the way, maybe that model has to change somewhat in terms of social media. Maybe this advertising model of social media is the thing that tends to push things towards a particular groupthink when big companies worry about their image like this. So content moderation needs to happen. Elon gets Twitter. Elon slashes 85% of the workers. Elon changes the content moderation staff. Elon brings back people such as Mr. Alex Jones and whatnot. And then Elon also responds to a particular tweet which is deemed to be anti-Semitic. He's been getting pushed back ever since he took over Twitter. But then there are questions which you're asking now. First of all, you must have seen the video, Dr. Thunder, with Elon saying, go F yourself, and then calling Bob Iger's name, saying, hello, Bob. What do you think about that video? And what do you think in general about Elon's approach to content moderation? Okay, which might kill the company, but let's leave that as aside. What do you think about his outburst? Do you think it was uncouth? What do you think it was right in line with what he set out to do? And also, what are your thoughts about his approach towards content moderation? Is it too far? Is it too? Is it becoming uncouth at Twitter these days? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I actually have not seen his video, but I understand what's going on. Yeah, I mean, part of me thinks that this, FU business is for optics, because we know that he's being celebrated as like one of the last sort of bastions of free speech and all this kind of thing, celebrated by, especially being celebrated by conservatives for that. So I think partially it's a way to kind of keep that energy, but I strongly suspect that behind the scenes that he's going to make some adjustments to the way, I think he'll be, maybe he doesn't go all the way to, well, that was just for, I got to keep my name a certain way, but really, I got you. I don't know I don't know that it'll be that far, but I think that it'll become nuanced so that he'll still be able to take advantage of certain advertiser dollars. So I think that though he's talking a certain way, and maybe it appears that he's doing a certain thing, I think that he's going to switch it up. I still think that he'll be more quote unquote free speech friendly and less likely to ban certain things than others. But I think he's going to have to, he's going to have to pull it back. I don't think he's really going to have a choice. That's my thought.
Right now, Crime Watch did.
Indeed, I think I made a little error here, but yeah, let's hear him. Even though this is the edited version, I was looking for.
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, yourself.
And of course,
But go yourself. Is that clear?
Yeah, it's pretty clear. You said it twice. Now, that was, of course, ex-CEO Elon Musk giving us a very strong message in how he feels about advertisers who have been pulling out of his platform.
So whom are these advertisers, right? They include Disney, they include Lionsgate, Apple, Warner Brothers. Those are some of the bigger ones. In other words, and these are advertisers that are the biggest spenders, okay? Some of the other fallout that is kind of like tangential to this has to do with the blue check system, which he came and he kind of dumped and says, hey, you pay $8 and you can get a blue check. It's not going to be a blue check based on status, if you will, status of verified people and such. If you're the New York Times, you get a blue check. Now it's going to be more democratized, if you will. And many people didn't like that either. And some people started faking blue check marks. And I think that one of Eli Lilly, I think, a pharmaceutical company, or perhaps they do other things as well. Somebody mimicked Eli Lilly with the blue check mark and said, hey, we're announcing that insulin is going to be free. And as a result of that, Eli Lilly stock fell down because insulin is now free. And who knows if that was the reason why it fell down. But the fact is, they put out that misinformation out there. It took 6 days to remove that. And Eli Lilly also pulled advertising from X as well. Shout out to RBR. Thank you for the super chat. And if it walks like Atsine and talks like blah blah blah, then it is Atsi. Okay, so he's going full on. Elon is a Nazi. Okay, shout out to you. And we have Carlo as well. Thank you for the super chat. Says he white, so he will be I. Okay, he's white, so he'll be I. Okay, yes, he's also a multi-billionaire, so he might be I. He could also, by the way, given the fact that the Tesla stock is up like 120% this year, he and his share of that is in terms of the increase he has seen has been over $20 billion. X has a like a $1.5 billion interest payments that they make every year. He could save the company with his own personal funds. That's typically not a good thing to do, though, unless if he actually does, if it becomes an integral part of his XAI and X payment and other kinds of things, then he might have to do that. He might have no choice whatsoever. Now, Kaizo, how's you back?
Should be. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So, what are your thoughts? You think that the public is going to go with Elon in this case? Because basically he's saying the public is going to be the judge. If you guys go ahead and kill this company, okay, the public will be the judge. Okay, what are they able to do other than watch? Well, what they're able to do, presumably, is to boycott these companies, right? Reduce their streaming services on Disney, drop the Disney stock and all these other stock of all these other companies. Do you think that this type of approach at all can work? Or you'll be just a drop in the bucket, the typical people kind of shaking their fists in the air, but it doesn't really matter. The big work out anyways. X is going to be a thing of the past. It's going to be dead, and they're going to erect another edifice, another social media edifice that works in their favor, where advertising is still the model, and people are going to do the middle of the road, milk toast type of content moderation. What do you think, Kaizo? Is this public play feasible at all?
Yeah, so it is feasible actually, but I'll go around in a circle before I get there. I think this is a cop out from Elon Musk because it removes responsibility. If you noticed when he mentioned if X fails, then it's because of advertisers, and it's because advertisers pulled out, and we'll see what happens. So what that means is if he's made any sort of unsound business decisions prior to this, which would have probably actually reduced the value. I mean, Twitter's been going downhill for a while anyways before he bought the company, but his decisions haven't helped the company make more money either. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I think it's the greatest cop out in the world. You put the responsibility onto the common man, and that removes him as a responsibility. So in his portfolio, Twitter did not fail because of him, but because of advertisers, an outside force that he didn't have control over. So that is actually a great way to state that, right? That's one. The second thing, if you look at
hold on 1 second. Yeah, I like that point that you made, but it is so obviously a cop out that even if you just look at it standing on its own, oh, this company failed. Call Twitter. And let me go look what the person that was heading it said. Oh, he said it was the advertisers. It's like, what the hell? Those are your customers,
Yeah.
right? Like you don't
Exactly.
say, it was the customer's fault. So it won't necessarily work. But go ahead.
Yes. I get your point, right? Obviously, those who do meta-analysis will look deeper and be like, no, but this is right. So this is about public image. It's about also him landing government contracts. There is an aspect of it from certain types of people that will look at it and be like, well, okay, he pissed off the right people with power. So he's also playing to the kinds of people that he would be willing to work with in the future, who do see that there is a power play here, and his decisions are irrelevant because he's standing up for something. So he's already kind of taking a path of more, morality, actually, right? If you notice, a lot of these people are all becoming either Christians, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, from atheism. You have Jordan Peterson, you have him. So all these people come from the same cloth and weaved or woven into a tapestry of anti-establishment. So if that's the case there, right, I think he'll survive this. Surviving this is not about Twitter surviving it. Twitter is almost an irrelevant real estate that he bought. And as I already stated, he owns a code, right, that created the Twitter platform, which has live streaming abilities as well as long form video content. he could basically remake it without even anyone knowing it ever was X or Twitter. So I don't think it's a bad investment from that portfolio. Anyways, let me get straight to the point, though, to answer your point for the last part. Is it possible for people to change things? Yes, by preventing themselves from using certain products. Yeah, it is. But even if that's the case, I don't think him making a couple statements on Twitter or live videos or whatever is going to be the thing that gets people excited. It's not this. It's not the thing that will make people want to do it, right?
Yeah.
He
So
has
in
to.
other words, it has to be an active program. It has to be programmatic
Exactly.
with step by step, where you put in you're putting you're doing a lot of PR, right? You're out there saying boycott this at this location and in these times, and we're meeting up at this place, and you
Yep.
create a page and all these other kinds of things. One more thing before we move on to game changer here is the advertising model, right? So you have the advertising model, and then you have other models such as pay $8 for a blue check, pay for subscription, do other types of things, turn X into a payments platform which will control half of all the dollars in the world, and append Dogecoin in there. All those things which we know are part of his like long-term end game plan for this. But if we just take it back to social media and the advertising model, many people have said that, look, the advertising model is the problem to begin with. The advertising model is what drives the algorithm to in certain places, because these particular advertisers care about their image, and it's not necessarily the best way of, shall we say, curating information and doing content moderation. Do you see any, first of all, do you think the advertising model is that bad? And do you see any other possible ways of these types of companies monetizing themselves other than through advertising? That was you, Kaizo.
Okay, so other than advertising, okay. Look, I think let me start by, when it comes to quantity and exponential growth of a company, Google ads or any other format, right, are similar, like Facebook ads, and in this case, X or Twitter, is the easiest format. You create a bidding site, people go bid for a certain push by the algorithm into a certain population and demographic, as well as algorithm, right? No one is paying a company with static websites to advertise for them, because that's just a billboard, right? And again, it depends if the real estate is close to a center of with a lot of traffic, right? So no, people are paying Twitter, YouTube, Facebook for all these different types of ads, because they have the algorithm that can send very tailored adverts to certain demographics. So if that's the case, that is obviously the fastest and best way to have again, exponential growth of a money without actually having to be active. If you look at super chats, for example, on YouTube, super chats are very active. You have to do the work, right? You have to be there, do the live stream and any prep work that surrounds it, right? So super chats do make a lot of money if you look at it from the perspective of how many users versus how much money they make, etc. Slash views, etc. You can make any metric and see that super chats make a lot of money. But at the end of the day, ads is what makes Google money, not super chats. Ads make I can't give you a number, right? Exponentially more money, because it's passive. You can be sleeping and you're making money on ads. So if that's the case, I guess what I'm saying is, yes, Elon Musk can try a different system. Super chats are a perfect example of it, right? Doing live streams and other sort of things, and or perhaps now there is one more they can try, but I guess I'm just trying to say ads are perhaps one of the most greatest way to make money for the company. Now there are other solutions, right? You can literally, Twitter can just create a bidding site that's more accessible to small businesses, right? And when I say bidding site, I don't mean simply what Google, they already have that anyways, right? Twitter. What I'm talking about is this, right? They could make Twitter accessible to B2B, business to business, business to customers on the ground, a bit like what happens on TikTok. So, let's say TikTok, you have some person selling an affiliate link and all that stuff. What Twitter can do is create a website, or rather within their own payment advert system, and start advertising for small and slash medium sized companies, aka right, you live, like what Facebook tried to do by integrating into a system. Okay, so this barber shop is over here, This is what the services that they have. Basically, they could not digitize, but they could standardize the whole digital marketing charade into a website platform, a bit like Coinbase. You get the point. I'm not actually expressing what I'm trying to say in the most clean way, but yeah, they could just they could go to the next level and turn digital marketing into a real thing that someone can just go to a website, type in their location, and they will go and send it to the right people exactly that needs it for. Rather than having all these middlemen in digital marketing charging thousands of dollars to small businesses. So they could change their clientele, right? And I believe it'll work.
Yes. Shout out to you. Now, shout out to One Man for the super chat. I don't think that's the. He says, "Go flower yourself." Now, let me get a thought from Game Changer, then we'll go to Dr. Thunder, then LAR. And this has to do with Elon Musk in general. We already talked before about, the recent uptick in anti-Elon rhetoric ever since he took over Twitter. People who did not care before, the typical kind of NPC response that we see, and there are other kinds of response which we understand from certain classes of people, either in the media class, or shall I say the managerial class, most of whom get their heads chopped off by these swashbuckling entrepreneurial types, not liking him. We've already talked about that, but now let's make a judgment on Elon as a whole. Okay, Elon and his endeavors, good or bad for humanity in general. Now, for me, just where are my sentiments, right? I tend to be more on the Elon side of things, mainly because of common enemies. In other words, I don't necessarily like the managerial class. I don't like people who are too much into systems and not into creating solutions, but just want to keep things going the way they are. Very, very risk averse, talking about the rules. These rules, by the way, which can keep incumbents and their interests in place. We know about regulatory capture, whereby the industry that needs to be regulated by some kind of is basically controlling that agency, involving doors and all these other kinds of things whereby people keep their interest. And this interest, these places get populated with a certain type of person, certain type of tie-wearing, button-down, managerial, capitalist type who talks smack about capitalism all day, but gets fat paychecks from Silicon Valley. So in that vein, I'm very much pro managerial class, right? Ayn Rand, Ubermensch type, whatever, right? It might be a little cartoonish, but just describing my sentiments there. But Game Changer, Elon Musk and his endeavors through time, do you think it's a overall benefit, or is he a demon that needs to be checked and he has too much power and perhaps maybe a Nazi? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I am not a entrepreneur like yourself. So I am, I guess you would classify me as a developer, as a production worker, someone who actually produces, not manage those who do. And yeah, from that standpoint, I can kind of understand where he's coming from, which is more akin to how Elon Musk started off. I can definitely understand where he's coming from, as this management style. Okay, the current the current what they teach in universities as far as business goes and things like that don't really account for modern technology. It don't. For example, in the past, you had the white collar and the blue collar people. And the blue collar were the people who produced, and these were typically uneducated. They worked in factories or warehouses or something like that, but they were, or mines or fields. And then you had a bachelor level educated class who were the overseers of these people. And then later, it changed significantly because in the software world, you have you have people who are educated with equal education, but they say, okay, you are a manager, and not only that, we have several of you, and it becomes very redundant as far as like, okay, we have the product manager, and we have the project manager, and we have the scrum manager. It's ridiculous. It's like, yeah, there is a lot of redundancies in the modern agile in the modern agile way of managing things. It is. And I do think that he was wise to eliminate a lot of those redundancies. Now, the problem is, and the reason why he's getting a lot of pushback from people who, of course, the people who were on that level, who were on the, oh, and by the way, for those of you who don't know, who work in a different industry, they're not actual managers. They don't actually have authority over people. They have authority over the project itself. They're more of facilitators. So of it, or they're more, how can I say? Okay, you know how if you go to a dentist's office and then you have the dentist, the person that's actually taking teeth out and putting teeth in, the person that's actually doing something, the person that's changing something from one thing to another. And then you have like a bunch of 20-year-old chicks that are there telling you how much it costs, or putting the cotton in your mouth for the x-ray. So you have the person that's doing stuff, and then you have the other people. That's what their jobs was more akin to. So what Elon did was he got rid of a lot of those people. Now, I never really worked directly for him, so I don't know the effects of that. I do know that I do appreciate the project managers, but I do think that the industry has become oversaturated with them. I can
real quick before you move on from that point there. Mark Zuckerberg, and this was after Elon did the slashing, right? And then Mark Zuckerberg came in and started doing his slashing, which is now turned around. Part of the reason why his company has turned around is because they cut a lot of fat, which needed to be cut because there was this crazy season of zero interest rate, money flowing easily, and you're able to just pull money out of thin air, and crazy valuations also of companies. But basically, Elon said, Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook said, I don't think we want a management structure that's managers managing managers, managing managers, managing managers, managing the people actually doing the work, right? So that's basically too many dental assistants, to use your analogy, right?
Yeah, exactly. And giving them the title manager. So that definitely is a problem. And this isn't new. In 1999, there was a movie out called Office Space, and this is before I became a developer myself, but it followed a developer, and he was like, and guess what? I got 8 bosses. And it is very easy, the way the corporate structure is right now, to have 8 bosses. Why? Because we have multiple depending on the type of work you're doing. Not the work I'm doing now, but if you work for, say, a consulting firm or a software firm or something like that, and you have multiple projects going on, and each of those have, like an overseer or manager of managers on that, then you are reporting to multiple people. It is extraordinarily redundant. And so, yeah, that is a problem. Mark Zuckerberg is right. Elon Musk is right about that. And it is annoying. So I'm not going to say I'm glad that the people lost their job, but I do understand what they were doing. I don't know the long-term ramifications of that. Now, the problem with that is that you have the younger people, the people in their 20s or perhaps even early 30s who are on that level, who, of course, have a problem with that. And then you have the people who came up through them. These are the people, these are the older ones, the VPs, the Gen X VPs and, and presidents and, partners of said firm who are really the VP of technology that don't understand technology. I've had some of those too. So you had people who came up under that old guard, and they want to keep that way going because it is a step on the corporate ladder. It's a step along the way on the corporate ladder that got them to where they are, and they don't want to remove that. So yeah, it's problematic for them, and I can understand why he receives a lot of hate, because he's changing a regime that's been around since before technology, or since before modern technology, computerized technology. This way of managing has been going on since aristocracy, since before pre-industrialization. So it is a radical change, but it has to be done, in my opinion. So that's my opinion on his management style. Now, as far as his some of his beliefs, yes, I am aligned with many of those too. one of which is intelligent breeding. I do feel that a person's overall intelligence, if it's measured by IQ, then so be it, is largely determined by nurture and smallly determined by nature. Nevertheless, what we have now is the people who are least willing to nurture their children, and quite frankly, probably are genetically deficient themselves, are breeding at a higher rate than the exceptional ones. And we're talking about by an extraordinary measure. Shaniqua has way more students than, say, I don't know, Ben Carson. So that is definitely a problem, and he implements that into his own life about that. And yes, it does mirror what the guy with the mustache said in the 40s, but it's not ethnic based. It's merit based. So that's the social change that he speaks about. I haven't seen him really try to push or use his wealth and resources to try to push that, which is a good thing. It's not something that you want to flood on people, but he is saying, like, if you have something great to offer society, then you should be more apt to have children. That's something I agree with, not necessarily something I would push on a super elite or anyone. But if we're talking about alignment with how he feels, then definitely. One last thing that she said that I want to address is these are the customers, and you were referencing the advertisers. I want to make this distinction. I actually disagree with that statement. I do not feel that that advertisers are customers. And I know when your product is entertainment, it may seem like that, but really it's the customer is the customer, and the advertisers are there to advertise to your customers. And which is a clear distinction, because your actions in any business, and this is why Disney stock is significantly down. I think it's down like last time I checked, it was down like $60. So because they don't make that distinction, they're making movies that is for the producers, for the people who the film financiers, the people who are willing to invest in the movies, the toy makers, the merchandisers, and things like that. They're making movies for them because they look at them as the customers, but they're not the customers. It's people who actually watch the movie is the customer. If you're producing crap, then everything else fails. And so, and as that pertains to something like Twitter, you actually have to bring the people in. You have to bring the people in. You are bringing in the customers so they can see what's advertised. My friend of mine is my former barber as well. And, I was a customer. And he had people come to his shop from a place called Window Shoppers America. And, they would pay him to put a poster of the latest Black movie in his barbershop. And, he would determine if he wanted to do that and make a little extra money. But, he never lost sight that we are the customers. We are the ones, we are the reason that they want to advertise at your barbershop. So he's smart not to lose sight of that. Disney, Warner Brothers, Lionsgate, Apple's a little different because they're not an entertainment industry. They're a technology firm, they're a technology industry. But nevertheless, they've lost sight of that. They lost sight of who their customers are, and that's why their entertainment platforms are crumbling.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you put a lot on the table there. I'm going to go to Dr. Thunder next with this same question about whether or not Elon's overall endeavors or Elon himself is a plus or minus or just neutral. He's just okay. No need to worry about him with regards to humanity. But a couple of things that you mentioned, Game Changer. One was the outgo, or shall I say, the after effects of a lot of people getting laid off. Some of it is good in the sense of within the startup space, you're now having a lot of engineers who had golden handcuffs before, right? They had this crazy job at Google with $400,000 and all kinds of stuff, and now they're free, okay? And they are actually
You broke up.
yeah, this time people are hungry. Money is not cheap anymore. So people have to really fight for this money, and good products generally will come out of this. Now, this is not all of the managerial class. This is only a small percentage. but the rest will have to then find their level, see if these skills, which they, the skills such as they are, which they developed at these corporations, is actually transferable. Because if you're being paid some bloated salary in some organization, you get slashed off of Twitter, and you can't find something equal somewhere else. Well, then the economy has spoken, the market has spoken. You were in a bubble too long, and we know about the bubble, the literal bubble, which was there because of zero interest rate policy for over a decade, right? So it's not like there wasn't a bubble. There was a real bubble, and it did burst. And these people whom don't have transferable skills are going to need to find some, and some of them that are finding are the development people. But Dr. Thunder, with regards to Mr. Elon Musk, is he an overall good? Is he overall bad? Is he a scary Nazi? Too much power? Who's this crazy rich white guy, richest man in the world, trying to go to Mars? Blah blah blah. What are your thoughts about his overall impact?
Yeah, I'm not threatened by him at all. I don't have. I mean, as far as rich guys go, he's maybe I'm less concerned about him because he's actually saying what it is that he wants to do, right? So he's actually open about what he's thinking about, and he's got FU money, and when you have FU money, you get to say stuff that you want to say, and even if it loses you a bunch of money, you still have FU money, right? So he could lose most of his money and he still has FU money. So, and that's the benefit of being in the kind of business that he's in. The downside is, now, on his way up, he would, he'd be more aware of what the downside was. But he's got so much money now and so many connections and so, in such sort of control of a particular industry that he does not really anything that's going to take this cat down, so he could say all kinds of wild and crazy stuff, and people will be like, well, he's kind of crazy, but I love his cars though, so that's kind of that's kind of how that's going to go. One thing I was thinking about as you all were talking, okay, so I was thinking about what is the likelihood that he actually intends to tank Twitter. So he bought this company, spent a whole lot of money on it, but the money that he spent on it, he's got FU money, and he's got unending supply of money and ways to access other people's money. And I mean, so it's not like he's really limited, right? So what is the likelihood that he saw Twitter, he said, you know what, I think Twitter is actually negative. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to tank this company, and maybe he has some other, some other plan, some other kind of social media apparatus that he's already got developed, that if he gets this Twitter out the way, then that will become the next thing. And maybe it's a big risk, whatever, but what's the likelihood that he actually doesn't actually care? He either intends to tank it or actually just does not care what happens to X.
I think that's a valid point. It came into my mind as well. If it tanks, no big deal. If it doesn't tank, even better. But regarding his overall plan, I think he has an overall plan to create the everything app. And that's what he was trying to do right from the beginning with his first iteration of X, which then became PayPal. He made X, Peter Thiel had PayPal, they joined together and released PayPal. And the idea there was to be a payments and everything app. And he's still talking about that. Also adding AI as well, which I don't know how good Grok is compared to ChatGPT, It's not as good, but I guess he's just starting his iterations, right? So he's got the AI approach and he has a payments approach, which I think is his end goal. And if Twitter morphs into something else, and this whole social, whatever Twitter was before, dies away, it probably isn't a big deal. But yeah, so that's a fair point there. Now, LAR, in addition to your closing thoughts, right? So both Elon, good or bad for humanity, and also your closing thoughts, and we'll circle around again back through to Dr. Thunder as we land the plane. What are your thoughts?
Indifferent to if he's good or bad for society, because it's so many other people in society that are good or bad for society that are higher up on the list. The interesting thing about this whole scenario is just fear mongering 101 to me, because businesses are scared of the fallout. People are using cancel culture as a way to censor quote unquote free speech. People are willing to jump on any bandwagon that they see fit, that they maybe they're on the side or right or wrong side, however you want to see it. And they use fear as the way that, something can happen in the future. And a lot of this stuff to me is just irrational behavior by people using something minor and making it something major because the person doing it is rich. Mind you, some of these same people and these same companies have dirt, a lot of it. Some of these same institutions have a lot of dirt. And it's just, we're going to point the finger at him because he's the new one, which I get. Every time somebody does something that goes viral, I get it. But even with y'all talking about like tanking Twitter, he could. And then again, he could just be rallying up all controversy. Because guess what? Now all the people that like controversy will go back to Twitter, which it was a haven for controversy anyways. That's why I never see the problem with this whole thing. People say outlandish stuff on Twitter all the time. That's far worse than the comment that he agreed with. Not a big deal. So at the end of the day, it's just more news that's making the cycle because there's not much out right now. Because in a week, nobody's going to care about this either. People are still going to buy Teslas, just like, how can I say this? Jewish people, the stereotype is they don't like German cars. And even if they don't, what about everybody else? So there's a whole nother world out here that's completely opposite of the cancel world. And they're looking for a bandwagon to ride on. Like, people haven't learned this with the silent majority or the people that would, Trump. People are looking for something that's anti what has already been. So this is just a bandwagon to ride on, in my opinion, and people are going to do it. But I'm done with that.
All right. Shout out to one man, by the way, for another super chat, dropping in literal FU money, as he literally demonstrated. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. I want to just comment real quick before I go to you, Kaizo, for your closing thoughts on this comment from TNBN. It's a typical kind of comment that you see. You can talk about Aliko Dangote, for example, the richest black man in the world. And people say, the government did this for him. Here we're hearing that Elon was lucky because he got government funding. Luck, in other words, what they say, when preparation meets opportunity, is part of life, right? It's part of the chaos of life. But, okay, think about the dustiest person that you know. No one is going to be funding anything that they want to do, okay, because they're dusty. So the 80-20 rule also follows. You may have 5 top-notch people, okay? But the most prepared and the one that's able to secure that opportunity, you win, okay? So when you win, coming back and saying, well, it's luck, it's like, well, yeah, we're human beings. Nobody said he was a god, but this is part of being somebody who is prepared and who goes out there and takes advantage of things. Nobody thought that the whole rocket hardware is hard. Hardware is very, very difficult to do, and especially when hardware is mixed with heavily capital intensive industries. That's like the worst thing you can get into, okay, as opposed to what is called SaaS, software as a service, right? Software as a service is very minimal capital input. The increase in cost to acquire another customer is literally zero. You just push send, okay, and now the other guy has the information to download your software. But to go into hardware that's capital intensive and then heavily regulated, such as the rocket industry, is insane. So you have to be insane to go for that approach. And if you win, you won. Okay, I'm not going to take anything away from people who were able to grab opportunities such as government funding. But anyways, Kaizo, what are your closing thoughts? Elon, good or bad? Evil?
Yeah, I mean, personally, here's the thing. I generally don't like people that have strong sense of morality or rather ethics. Actually, forget the morality part, right? I don't like people that have a strong sense of ethics. And what I'm trying to say is, everybody was always saying, "Oh, Elon Musk trying to change the world," all those narratives. But now that I'm seeing that, he is doing something, that there is some kind of underlying psychological premise behind his actions, I'm not hating on him anymore, right? Because I don't think he's trying to change the world, right? He's just trying to do something. Perhaps he's got motivations towards a certain direction that he wants things to go, but it's not I'm trying to save the world thing going on at all. So I like that. So in general, I think Elon Musk got demonetized, and that sucks for him. Welcome to the team, like those other people in YouTube. And I think ultimately,
the YouTube channel on what? Elon Musk has a YouTube channel.
No, that would be funny. Demonetized on Twitter, but yeah. So this is kind of interesting. I think it goes to show where the world is going to move forward to. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to go stick to this whole large corporations paying millions of dollars every year for advertisement just for like a regular, or are they going to start actually trying to reach to the customers and promote real businesses on the ground that are actually trying to get on, trying to get on. So it just depends how this thing moves on forward. But yeah, generally speaking, it sucks that he got demonetized, but he'll be all right. If you're all white, everything will be all right.
If it's all white, it's got to be all right. Yes, Mr. Game Changer, what are your closing thoughts?
So yeah, I do appreciate that he did take a stand against woke culture and the mechanism that they use to control the both the wealthy and the not wealthy. So somebody needed to do it. I'm glad that he was one of the first, like Dave Chappelle and many others, who stood up to this this groupthink that's taken over. As far as the financial aspect goes, I mean, I think with synergy alone, he'll be okay. As far as, okay, they're going to pull back advertisement. Well, I mean, that's going to hurt them more than it's going to hurt Elon or Twitter, given that, well, for one, they did advertise heavily on Twitter before, and, look at what that did to Twitter stocks originally, so it really didn't help it. But two, he has enough products to where he can advertise himself. He can advertise his own. Well, I'm not going to say Teslas and things like that, because that doesn't really require much advertising, but you get what I'm saying. And also, let's not forget that, his net worth is greater than the cap of purchasing Disney, which I looked up was 165 billion, and his net worth is 244 billion. So he could simply just do that, so no matter what, he's going and then make them, advertise on Twitter. But no matter what, it does seem like he's going to come out on top in this endeavor, and somebody has to champion this woke agenda. That's somebody has to push back against this agenda.
Thank you. Yes, he could go on a company destruction tirade with that $200 billion, going along with Dr. Thunder's theory there. Just say, hey, let's buy Disney next and tank that shit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a good run. It's over. But Dr. Thunder, you get to take us out. What are your closing thoughts?
You just have to figure all he needs is about $1 billion left. He still has that money.
Stash $1 billion somewhere, $1 billion of Bitcoin in a lockbox somewhere, and then just go wild with the rest.
I mean, what really can he get that he can't get with $1 billion? You know, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So, uh, so I'm broke, Ninja. I'm broke. Um, you know, I think one thing that because I don't actually think, I don't actually think that Elon was really doing God's work per se, as far as standing up against woke, you know, the woke agenda or whatever, or standing up for free speech. I don't think he was doing it for that reason. I think he got celebrated and has been celebrated for that. Has gotten a lot of credit for that, but I just think he has other reasons for doing it. You know, whatever his agenda is, I don't. He has a motivation that is proportional to his willingness to be the free speech guy. You know, he has a motivation proportional to the risk. I mean, that's how he has become filthy rich, and you know, more money than God, and you know, and more power, you know, than anybody, you know, than most everybody else, right? Is because he's taken risks that were always proportional. You know, it was always proportional. It wasn't like I've grown a conscience and now I've decided that I'm going to do this thing, and regardless as to if I lose all my money. No, it wasn't that. It's not that at all. And I suspect that even in this move that he's taking now, with the sort of FU Disney, FU whoever, it's hard for me to think that a dude that has been as successful as him doesn't have some sort of. I mean, he's got something in his back pocket. He's got something that he's doing this for. So you know, so of course I'm not concerned about a rich guy's money anyway. But you know, this dude's never going to be broke. He's always going to be fine. Now, you know, we were kind of talking about like a lot of these layoffs that happened, you know, at Twitter, and then of course Zuckerberg sort of borrowed the playbook and started slicing a bunch of middle management folks, you know, and a bunch of HR folks and all like that. It's interesting because it's not altogether different from what's happening at a lot of companies in the academy, where a lot of these DEI programs are being sort of, you know, sliced and diced. At some institutions, though, they're keeping them. The institution I work at, you know, it seems like it may actually be expanding because it's a huge, you know, behemoth. It's a huge school, but a lot of these smaller schools, that, you know, what can they actually do with that? Something that's illegal now. What are you going to actually do? And you know, you can trim certain things back and still operate in a certain way. You don't actually need all of that fat. So anyhow, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm not too worried about, you know, this dude's money. I think he'll be fine. And again, I don't necessarily think that he had altruistic reasons for being the free speech guy. I suspect that his FU is the risk that he's taking is going to be, as I said, proportionate to whatever it is that he has in his back pocket, whatever he has to gain. So That's my thought.
Very, very well put indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another installment of Case Closed, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Sunday, the place to be for the highest level conversations on the most relevant topics in this space. Ladies and gentlemen, today we talk about content moderation, an absolute, something that needs to happen within the social media space. We've discussed Elon's approach to content moderation, what he did with Twitter and at X, the feathers that he has ruffled. Will the public come to his aid now that the advertisers, Disney and the like, are pulling away? What will happen next? The saga continues, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the people in the chat, for those watching silently, to the super chatters. We had one man went to Mo. He super chatted twice. Thank you very much. We also had the RBR Network, the legend in the building, causing a ruckus out there in the chat, and also he super chatted as well. And we also had Carlo with $5. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, peace. We're out.
In the den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what was behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with the shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make me get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make me get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.